In this tutorial, we're going to create a pretty interesting quest starting scene where this man right here, Balon Gray, is going to come and sit down next to me when I sit at the bar and hand me a note that will begin my quest line. So while there's not an entire quest line that we're going to be implementing, it is a very interesting start, and you can definitely use this and adapt it to fit whatever quest you're working on. So Balon Gray is an entirely new character that we added here to the Riften B and Barb, which is a bar in Riften. And I'm just going to show you what happens. So if I come down here and sit in one of these bar stools, and sit this one, we go into third person, I can see that Balon Gray is walking over towards me, and he's going to hopefully sit down next to me. You look like someone I can trust. Here, take this note and follow the directions inside if you are.
If you've got the coin,
and
you're
so he
welcome.
just gave me a note, and now it started, Balon Gray's note. And so we just started our quest. This mysterious man has handed me a note, and I can read it. And it says, "Oh, be so kind to assist me with killing the Bandit King. I'd be most appreciative." So there it is. So let's begin making this quest and see how it all came together. Okay, so to begin making our mod, we're going to start by creating first Balon Gray. So to do this, we're going to make a new actor. So go to the Actors tree heading, and go to the Actor subheading, then right-click and select New. For the ID, I want to prefix it with TQM and then Balon Gray. And for his name, I'm just going to call it Balon Gray. And for a short name, we'll call it Balon. Next, we're going to check him to be unique, because there should only be one copy of him in the whole world at once. And then we're also going to check him as essential, so he can't die. Now we're going to change his race to be the Nord race. Of course, you can pick what you want, but I'm going to make mine Nord. Now I'm going to change the voice type to be male Nord. Now what's helpful in these things, if you haven't learned already, is that you can just select the drop list and start typing what you want to find, and it will filter down to that, so you don't have to actually scroll through and select the thing you need. Okay, so next thing we need to do is give him some clothes. So if I click the preview button down here, we can see that there's our Nord man, and he is naked. So let's give him some clothes by going to the inventory and select his default outfit. I'm going to give him the merchant clothes outfit 2 without a hat. And this one automatically updates, so you just need to click down here in the checkbox and then it will fill in, you'll see his clothes. Alright, so now we need to make sure that he's not doing some weird things. We want him just to hang out in the bar before the quest starts. So to do that, we're to the AI packages. We're going to add we're just going to add an existing package, and then type up here in the filter, type in default. And if you follow the tutorials, you'll know that these default packages apply to any place in the world. So you can apply them to whatever character you want in whatever setting. So it's really helpful to filter by default if you just want to use an existing package. The first thing we want him to do is actually just eat in the location he's in. So we'll try however this default eat editor location 8 by 1. So that means he's going to eat at 8 in the morning for 1 hour. Click OK. And then let's add another one, and let's give him a sandbox. So the sandbox just means he'll kind of mill around, sit, walk to various chairs in the room, things like that. So we'll type in default sandbox, and this time I'm going to select default sandbox editor location 512. And that says that he's going to just sandbox around in the editor location, so wherever we place him in the world, in a radius of 512. So he'll look for items around him in 512 units away, and select from those to sort of interact with. So click OK. Now the big problem here is that this is a stack of AI packages, and so the game will evaluate the topmost package, and if the conditions are met, it will follow that AI package. In this case, since the sandbox package works for any time of the day at any day, it will always meet the conditions, and so we'll actually never go down here and start eating. So we actually want to swap these. Just use the arrows here to rearrange them. And so now eat editor location is at the top. So what's going to first do is check if the conditions are met. So if it is 8 o'clock in the morning, it will actually make him go eat. Otherwise, it will fall back onto this default sandbox package. Okay, so that creates our actor. Now we just need to place him in the world. So click OK. And we're going to place him inside the Riften B and Barb. So with the world space set to interiors, type here and just go down. You can type in Riften, and it should filter all the way down here to B and Barb. Just double click that, and it will open up in the render view. It may give you an error, just ignore it. Okay, so it's kind of confusing what we're seeing here, but we're actually right by the front door of the bar. So I'll try to move the camera around. It's a little difficult to do this. But what I'm going to do is just place him, actually we're down here by the stairs, looks like. The front door is up here. So what we're going to do is just place him up here by the front door. So again, select from your object window, make sure you have him selected, and just drag him into the scene. If you get an error, just say yes to all, and there he is, he's in the scene. And make sure to save your work. Alright, so the next thing we need to add to the mod is the note itself that Balon's going to give to us. So to do this, we're going to go down to the items tree and select the book subheading, and then we're just going to look for an existing note just so we don't have to set everything up. So type in note to the filter, and in this case I'm going to select this MS01 Wayland note. I'm just going to edit it, so right click and edit, and I'm going to change the ID to be TQM note. And then I'm going to set the name to be Balon Gray's note. And I'm just going to change this text in here to be something like, I'll just make up a quest line. Of course, you can add whatever you want for your quest line. We're not going to really go into the specifics of how the quest operates, but mine just says, "Dear friend, if you'd be so kind as to assist me with killing the Bandit King, I'd be most appreciative." So we're not going to make a Bandit King, but in this case it's a good start. So what's nice about copying the note is that it already has some of the artwork set up for us. So it has the world art selected, the inventory art, and things like that. And it already has a pickup sound assigned, so we don't have to worry about that. So now we're just click OK. It's going to give me some warnings about the spelling, just ignore them. And click OK again. So what it says is, you have changed the form editor's ID. Would you like to create a new form? And I want to click yes. So what this does is, instead of overwriting the old note that I just changed, it's going to create a new copy of it. And so now I should have a whole new copy of the note. There it is. Alright, now that we have Balon Gray and the note created, we're going to actually start making the quest itself. So to do this, go to the character tree heading, then go down to quest, just right click and add new. For the ID, I'm going to call it TQM Quest 01. And the quest name, I'm just going to call it Balon Gray's Note. I'm going to have a priority of 60, so this kind of orders the quests. If you follow the tutorials, they recommend setting it to 60 for any kind of quest. Then I'm going to set the type to be side quest because it's not really associated with any quest line. And what's important here is I'm going to change this event to change location event. We're going to talk about this in a second, but basically what this means is that this quest will be started when certain conditions are met and when the player changes location. So this quest won't start until he actually enters into the Riften bar. The next thing we need to do is actually set up the quest stages. So there's going to be 4 stages. There's 0, which is the initial stage, so check the startup stage button. And then there's going to be stage 10, and stage 10 is when the scene starts. So we move into stage 10 when the player sits on the stool in the bar. Then we're going to add scene 20, stage 20, and stage 20 is when when the player has been given the note but has not yet read it. And then finally we have stage 30, which is the stage when the player has read the note. Okay. Now we need to actually set up our quest objectives. So I'm going to make one quest objective for index at 20. So this is a quest objective that's associated with stage 20. And the display text will simply be read the note. So this will display the objective of read the note after the player is given the note from Balon Gray. We're going to add another one at index 30. And this text will be follow the note's directions. So this is what's going to show up when the player actually reads the note itself. Okay, so that sets up the basics of our quest. So click OK, and then just make sure to save your work. Alright, so now we're going to actually hook up our quests to the story manager within Skyrim. To do this, go to under the character tree, go to the SM event node, and if you have a filter, make sure you get rid of it. And you're going to look for change location event, and just double click that. So in here we have a bunch of these branch nodes. Right click on the very top and select new quest node. And this quest node will give an ID of TQM quest node. Okay, oops, if you press enter it will close the window, so you gotta be careful about that. Next, check this shares quest button, or shares event button. Now what we want to do is add quests to it. We're going to find our TQM quest 01. It's the quest we just made. We're going to add that to our quest node. So what happens is this event is called, this tree is searched every single time the player changes location. And what happens is it searches through these trees and looks for all these conditions within these branches, these various branches. So in this case there's a list of 5 conditions here. And if these conditions are all met, it starts the quest that's here. It starts the quest that you assign to that branch. And so what we're doing is we made our own branch, and we're going to assign some conditions to our quest here. So the first condition is going to be a get event data, and then we're going to click this button here, and we're going to select get is ID new location, and we're going to set the new location to Riften B and Barb location. So what this says is this quest should only be started if the new location that the player moved into is the Riften B and Barb. Alright? And the next thing we want to make sure is we don't want to start the quest if it's already running. So in this case we're going to do get quest running, then we're going to select this button and we're going to look for our TQM quest 01 and select that, and then change this value to 0 because we want it to be false. So we're saying, alright, make sure that the quest isn't already running and that the player has just moved into the Riften bar. So if these two conditions are true, then it will actually start off our TQM quest. And that's all you need to do is to set it up with the story manager. Alright, so now let's go back into our quest and we're going to start working on adding some aliases to it. So I'm going to search for the TQM quest 01 that we made, and then we're going to the quest aliases tab. So we're going to make our first alias, which is going to refer to Balon Gray. Now it's important when you're working with your quest to kind of think of these aliases as variables that could really hold any type of actor or reference. So in this case, I'm just going to call this note giver. I'm not going to specifically say it's Balon Gray, just for good practice. I'm going to say it's the fill type is unique actor. I'm going to fill it with TQM Balon Gray. So what it says is when the quest starts, fill this note giver variable with the TQM Balon Gray actor. So now Balon Gray is associated with this alias. Again, if you have a smaller screen, you can't see the OK button on this form, which is way at the bottom. Click on the alias name field and just hold down Shift and press Tab twice, and then press Enter. And that should select the OK button and press Enter. Now we need to add an alias to point to the note. So we're going to make a new reference alias again. This time give the alias name note, and then we're going to use the create reference to object. We're going to select TQM note as the object. Ignore the level. We're going to say create in, and we're going to create it inside of note giver. So what this says is it's going to make a new instance of our TQM note and place it inside of the note giver's inventory. So it will be inside of Balon Gray's inventory. So again, go up to the top field and hold Shift Tab, and Enter, and that will save that alias. Now there are two bar stools inside of the Riften bar, and we're going to need to set up some aliases so we can refer to them for our scripts. So we're going to make a new reference alias, and we're going to call this one the player bar stool. And this one's going to be using the find matching reference, and we're going to say in loaded area and closest. And what this says is it will assign this alias to whatever the nearest object is in the area that matches all the conditions down here. So of course we don't want to just randomly grab whatever the nearest thing is to the location. So instead we want to make sure that we only select barstool. So there's a has keyword condition. So use the has keyword as a condition function and click the button and change this to is barstool. And so this is a built-in keyword that is placed on any object in the world that is considered a barstool. Okay, so that will select the nearest barstool in the Riften bar. Again, go up here and do Shift Tab, and Enter to save. Okay, now we need a reference to the other barstool that that Balon Gray will go sit down, that will sit on next to you. So we're going to say other barstool, call that. And again, we're going to use the find matching reference in loaded area closest. We're going to have the same thing. We're going to say has keyword, and this time is barstool equals 1. And we're going to add another one though. We're going to say get is alias reference. Alias is player barstool, and then set the value to 0. So what the second condition says is select a barstool, the nearest barstool in the Riften bar, but make sure it's not the one that's been assigned to the player barstool already. So this way we don't select the same barstool for both these barstools. Okay, so go again up to alias name and Shift Tab, and press Enter, and that will save. And so these are all the aliases we need for this quest. So go ahead and click OK and save your progress. Now that we have our aliases set up, we can create the scene where Balon Gray sits down next to the player and hands him a note. To do this, open up the quest again, and this time go to the Scenes tab. In this left area, right-click and select New. I'm just going to call this TQM Quest 01 Scene, then click OK. The first thing you need to do is select it, so it actually is selected. And then add a new phase, add a phase at the end. So this would be the first phase of our scene. Then again, right-click in the blank space and select New Actor, and select Note Giver. So this will be Balon Gray's actor, who really is the only person in the scene that has any action. So now right-click Note Giver inside the Phase 1 and select New Action Package. What we're going to do is add an AI package that makes Balon Gray sit down next to the player. To do this, right-click in this fields and select New, and then change the package template up here on the right to Sit Target. Then select the target and change that to we're going to change this to the object that our alias, that our other barstool alias points to. So we're going to say reference alias and then change the object ID to other barstool. So what this package does is it makes the actor move to the target that we're pointing at and have him sit down. So in this case it will move to the other barstool that is next to the player's barstool and have him sit. So click OK, and then click OK again, and there's our action. Now we need to add another phase at the end, and this will be our actual dialogue phase. So right-click in the Note Giver area, add New Action, Dialogue. The first thing to do is check this Head Track Player, so we'll actually look at the player. And then in the area down here, select right-click and select New. We're going to add some response text. So in this case, he's just going to say, you look like someone I can trust. Here, take this note and follow the directions inside if you are. Alright, and click OK. We're going to do some voice recording for this. If you don't do the voice recording, you will get some errors, so it actually won't end the scene, which is there's some weird bugs that happen if it doesn't have any audio for it. So now, up here in the top right, change the speaker to TQM Balon Gray. And what this does is it narrows down the voice options we have for this response. So you notice this is actually filled with a lot of these things. If this happens to you, just click OK again on this screen. Now double click again on this to open it back up. And now you can double click on the response text, and now it should just show Mel Nord. So with that selected, click record, and I'm just going to record this voice right now. You look like someone I can trust. Here, take this note and follow the directions inside if you are. Alright, so now that I've recorded, I just want to click save, and it should save it. You'll see this flip will say Y and that kind of thing. Now click OK, and now we have voice work recorded for that dialogue line. Click OK again here, and OK again there. Alright, now if you want to check show all text, it will show the entire text of the dialogue that you have in that case. So that looks right. Now the problem with the scene is if you played it right now, what would happen is Balon Gray would come in, he would sit down next to the player, and then stand up and then say this dialogue. So we don't want that to happen. We want him to stay sitting. To do that, we're just going to right-click this option and copy the action, then right-click in phase 2 and paste the action. And since it's just the sit target, when this gets evaluated, he will just stay sitting, and he won't actually get up or anything like that. Okay, so that finished up the entire scene. We'll add some scripts to this later to make it more dynamic. Now that our scene's set up, we can start working on the scripting. So basically what we have right now are a bunch of disconnected components of our quest, and the scripts are going to tie everything together. So to start, open up our TQM Quest 01 again, go to the Quest Aliases tab. Double click on the player's barstool alias to bring up the menu. When this opens, we're going to add a script to the barstool. What the script is going to do is it's going to actually initiate the quest when the player sits on the barstool. So we click Add here. It's going to bring up a list of all the quests. So here's a list of all the quests. We're just going to double click this new script thing on the top, and we're going to give it a name of TQM Quest 01 Barstool Script. So this script will be applied to both barstools. Oops, I already have it named that. So I'll just call it stool script. Click OK. Alright. Now what we need to do is actually add a couple properties to this script. So click the Properties button with it selected. Add a property. First we're going to add, it's going to be a reference alias. And we're going to call it player stool. Then click OK. And now add another property. It's going to be a reference alias again. And this one's going to be other stool. You'll see why we're doing this in a second. But what we need to do now is assign the player stool to be the player barstool alias that we set up. So select that there. Then click the other one and select edit value and change it to be the other barstool. Oops, I flipped that. So player bar stool gets applied to player stool, and other bar stool gets applied to other stool. And click OK. Now we need to actually edit the script, so right click and select Edit Source. This brings up the editor. The only script we need to add here is an event when it's activated, so that's when the player actually uses it to sit down. So I'm going to copy and paste the script here. We'll go over it in a second. So what we see here is it's the event, it's the onActivate event, and it's passing us an activator. So this is the object that activated this stool, so hopefully this will be the player. And that's what we check for in our first if statement. So we say if the activator is game.getPlayer, so the player actually activated the stool. Then we say get owning quest, and that returns the quest that owns this this aliases, this reference aliases alias, I guess. We make sure that the stage is set to 0. So if the player later activates the stool, we don't want to reinitiate the quest. We just want to make sure it only happens when the stage is 0. And what we're going to do is this little next bit of code is kind of tricky. The idea is that we want to make sure that the player can sit on either bar stool, and depending on which one he sits on, we want to make sure that the other one that's not occupied is Balon Gray's bar stool, so he'll go to that one, so they don't both try to sit in the same bar stool. So that's what this bit of logic does here. So it says if self, so self refers to this alias, it says self.getReference is equal to the other stools.getReference. So what this says is that the player actually activated what we assumed was the other stool, what we assumed was Balon Gray's stool. If it is, then what we do is we temporarily get a reference to the other stool's reference. Then we force the other stool's alias to refer to the player stool, and then the player stool we force to be the other stool. So what we've basically done is switched the stool alias references. So now the other stool will always point towards the stool that Balon Gray should sit on, and the player stool alias will always point to the stool that the player has sat on. So that's all this code does here. Now all we have to do after that point is say get owning quest and set stage to 10, and that starts off our quest. So that is the entirety of the script, so just click save, and it will compile it and check for any errors. Okay. Now what we need to do is add this script to the other stool as well, so they both have the same thing. So again, go to alias name, hold shift, press tab twice, and press enter to save. Now go to the other bar stool, and open it up. And now add a script, and this time the script already exists, so we can just look up TQM, and TQM we have the stool script. And we need to set up the properties again, so click Properties, Other Stool, click Edit Value, and set it to be Other Bar Stool. And then click the Player Stool property, select Edit Value, and change it to be Player Bar Stool, just like we did in the last one. Alright, and that should be all we need for this, because the script has already been written. Go up to the alias name, hit Shift Tab, and Enter to save. And now we have our bar stool script set up. So just click OK to save, and save your work. The next thing we need to do is add a script that plays when the scene is over, and the script will progress the quest stage to the next stage where we think that Balon Gray has already given the player the note. So to do this, open up the TQM quest again, go to the Scenes tab. Now with our TQM quest 01, whatever we call it, scene selected, click the Edit Data button. Now over here we can have two script fragments that play at the beginning of the scene and at the end of the scene. All we want is to have something at the end of the scene. What we're going to do is just add in get owning quest dot set stage and set it to 20, and then click compile, and that will do some compilation. And when that works, just click OK, and then click. Now what we need to do is set some code for the stages themselves. So what we just done there is when the scene's over, it's going to set the quest stage to be 20. So let's go to quest stages, and let's first work on stage 10. So to add scripts that occur when the stage starts, you can right click in this log entry area and add new. Then the script fragment stuff over here, I'm just going to add a comment that says we need to start the scene. The player sat in the bar stool. Okay. You can just click compile, and then click properties. And what this is going to do is going to bring up the window of the properties for this fragment. We're going to add a property, and this is going to be a scene property, and this property is going to point to that scene that we were just working on. So we'll give it type of scene, and change the name to bar scene. And then click OK. And now select the bar scene property and select edit value. And we're going to change it to TQM Quest 01 scene. And that was the scene that we just made. Now click OK. And now what we need to do is actually start the scene. So now in our script we just say bar scene, so that's the property we just made, dot start. And that will kick off the scene. And then click compile to make sure everything worked. Okay, so now when that scene completes, it's going to automatically progress our stage to stage 20. So we're going to need some more scripts here. So at stage 20, with it selected, right click again and add a new log so we can edit the script. And for stage 20, we just need to add, we need to give the player the note, so the player's note isn't actually given until stage 20 begins, technically. So what we're going to do is we're going to say game.getPlayer.addItem. We're going to add alias underscore note.getRef. So this alias underscore note is an existing property that points to the alias, to the note alias that we set up earlier. So this is how the creation kit works for you. It creates this prefix for all the aliases that you have. So we know we have a note alias, and getReference returns the actual reference to the actual object reference that we're pointing to. So that puts the note inside of the player's inventory. And then what we need to do now is actually set the objective. So we're going to say set objective displayed, and we're going to display objective 20. And now just click compile to make sure everything worked. And now we need to add our index, our stage 30 script. So for stage 30, again we're going to make a new log entry. And then our fragment, all we need to do is say that objective 20 was complete. So the objective 20 is the objective that says you need to read the note. So we're going to say set objective completed 20. And now we want to show the objective that says that the player needs to follow the directions. So we say set objective displayed 30. So this will say we completed objective 20, and now we need to show objective 30. And click compile. And click OK. And hopefully that has created our entire scene, and so you can test it out in the game. Alright, so here we are outside of the Riften Bee and Barb, and we're going to go in and test out the quest that we just made. So
Running a little late.
So what happens right now is we're changing location. The story manager found that our quest meets the conditions, and it just filled all the aliases that we have. And so here we see Balon Gray hanging out in the bar, hopefully eating, so he's just sandboxing, hanging out. So now here are the two bar stools that we have in these. So these are hopefully assigned to those two aliases, the bar stool and other bar stool. So if I select one of them, I can sit down, and hopefully we see Balon Gray starts walking over here, and he's going to ask a question. You look like someone I can trust. Here, take this note and follow the directions inside if you are. Alright, and so there's we got our note added. It says we actually started the quest. And there's the objective, read the note. So we can go to items and look in the books, and we see, oh, Balon Gray's note. So you click A to read it. And it says completed, read the note, follow the note's directions. Here's a new objective, and there's a note. And so you notice if you try this, you can also go in the left bar stool, and it should work just fine. And now we can begin our epic quest of helping out Balon Gray. I hope this tutorial was helpful, and I look forward to making some new ones.